about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements. Yeah, I lost my way, but I hear tell about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements.
All right, everybody. Hi. How's it going? Frankie here, New West Reset. Welcome back. Thank you very much for shooting in, joining a fella here for another live stream. New West Reset Live, episode 56. Friday, March the 8th. Just a scotch past 5 p.m. local time here. Mountain time in Calgary, in Purdy, Alberta, up in Canada land. How's it going? Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me here. Good to see all of you. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Lovely day here today. Still lovely this evening. It's currently +7 Celsius, which is about, I don't know, mid 40s, something like that. Not too shabby. Guys, got the window open. It's so nice out. Quite a change from last week, I'll tell you that. Woo! They're like night and day. Night and day. A little breezy, but it's a warm wind. I think we're having one of our famous Chinooks. Not the salmon or the attack helicopters. The warm winds that blow in from the Pacific Ocean. They blow in here to Alberta, and it warms things up above zero for a couple of days, often for a week or so. And then the winds subside, and the sub-zero comes back. But we take it when we can get it around these here parts. You know what I mean? See what I'm saying? So I trust everybody's doing well. Who we got in the box? Jump into the box, into the chat, say hello. Hippie Shake is here. Howdy, Hippie. Lynn Alexander. Howdy. Good to see you. Cat's shooting in from Florida. Cat 14. Hello. Deanne is here as well. Good to see you. Thanks to everybody for taking time out of their evening to join me. A lot of you from Campbell's chat over at Autodidactic on his live stream. Great bunch over there, but not as good as this bunch here, eh? Right, Bill? Bill Powell's here. Good to see you. Marit is here. Hello. From the Netherlands. Cousin Vinny's here. Good to see you, Vince. Hello. Welcome. Jabru Joe. Hello. Howdy. Maggie's here as well. Good to see all of you from the UK. Well, what do you know? Well, fantastic. The Fremantle doctor, eh? Lovely. So as always, I appreciate all of you kicking off your weekend here with yours truly. It's Friday. So thank you very much for, joining me here for this. As mentioned, episode 56 here tonight. We're going to be looking at the Canadian National Exhibition. This thing's been going since 1858, although it didn't really become official and become an annual exhibition fair thing until a little later. But that said, as per usual, some shenanigans with the official story, as always. So we're going to look at that. But it's basically it's Canada's oldest and largest annual exhibition and fair, right? It's like like the World Fairs, right? But we do it up here in Canada Land every year over there in Toronto, over in the T-Dot, over in Ontario, you see. But it's the Canadian National Exhibition, or we just call it the CNE. The CNE, eh? Over in Toronto. Good stuff going on over there. In terms of, let's not mince words here. Let's not beat around the bush. Beautiful old world Tartarian inspired buildings out there. And a lot of them were built, between the 1860s and 1890s. Some more recently, some in the 1920s and some in the 50s, as larger crowds would convene upon the fairgrounds, or, as they had to update stuff. So, of course, they knocked down some old buildings, those rat bastards. But, they kept a lot of the old ones. A lot of the old ones are still standing, and then they built modern buildings to facilitate more modern needs and larger crowds, as mentioned, and all that kind of stuff. Expand the midway, because all the rides, people don't really check out the exhibits that much in these exhibitions these days, it seems. A lot of people just want to go to the midway, go on some rides, upchuck into a garbage can, get some corn dogs, and, chase skirts. Try to pick up some chicks. Hey, here's a couple of cute tomatoes over there. Hey, ladies, how you doing over here? Eh? You ladies care to join us young Canadian gentlemen on a ride on the Ferris wheel? I don't know where that voice came from, but anyway. Our melted reality in the box. Howdy, howdy. Happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday indeed. Q Magoo's here. Squiggy. Yeah, kind of, right? Lenny and Squiggy. Laverne and Shirley. Right? Hey, chickies. That was a great show. I much preferred that show over Happy Days. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at that. Of course, as per usual, we'll take a sort of a mid-show break. We'll give you a sneak peek at your midweek coming up this Wednesday, some vintage footage. I've also got some bonus vintage footage. So it's such a bonus I stuttered there. A bonus. But anyway, got some vintage footage, or some footage as applies to the CNE. Some footage from the 1940s, prior to a lot of these more modern buildings going up and tearing down of the old world stuff. I mean, at that point, they had already done a little bit of that, but you see a lot more of the old world stuff. So you get a twofer. You get to see some vintage footage from the CNE, and then you also get your sneak peek for Wednesday. How do you like that? That just happened. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it as always. Links in the description for everything that we're going to be exploring here tonight. I managed to grab some beautiful photographs starting in about 1880s, going up to the 1950s. But they're beautiful photos of the buildings, and then a lot of the people too. We like to check out the people, see how they're dressed, see what kind of shenanigans are going on in the background, So I've also got the link for the website from which a guy snagged some of those photos, and I've put that down in the box as well, because I'm not going to show everything from that website. And speaking of links, BitChute, MeWe, and a feller's email down there as well. So if you want to contact me, please do not hesitate. And also Rumble, because we are streaming simultaneously as per usual every Friday here with the show. Simultaneously streaming live on the HooTubes and on the Rumbles. So, yeah, there you go. Link for that below as well. Also, a link to the New West Reset location map. Speaking of Cousin Vinny, because, you know, you get your Frankie Fingers, but then you get your Cousin Vinny as well, you see. And that was a project that Cousin Vinny was kind enough to put together. Let me just show that as well. I'm going to show it this time, actually. Guy's going to show it. Instead of just blathering on about it real quick here, why don't we have a look-see? So this is, you just click on the link and it takes you to this. It's the location map. And where all of these icons are places that I've done boots on the ground video. Not just Calgary, mind you. You know, a couple of little towns. Didsbury there, a couple down in and around southern, really southwestern Alberta. Pincher Creek and whatnot. So yeah, you just click on the link and then, I don't know, you just go into one of these random, you just click on this and it takes you to, this little window opens up and it gives you the link here for the video. And you click on that and it'll take you right to a guy's video. So thanks to Vinny, Cousin Vinny, for putting that whole thing together. That couldn't have been thrown together in an hour or two, I don't think. A guy like me, that would take me months.
So, Tommy, where have you been, huh? I've been watching New West Reset. Huh? Well, you know, it's New West Reset. It's this thing on YouTube. He goes around, he does his boots on the ground thing. They'll tell you.
Say you care.
So there you go, some Frankie Fingers and Cousin Vinny. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can click on that picture too and blow it up a bit. Yeah, make it bigger. So, yeah, very cool. So the link for that in the description box below as well. So what do you say? What do you say we kick this thing off here? Let's just start off as per usual with the Wikipedia, I guess. Why not? As good as a place as any to jump off. Uses a launch pad here for the shenanigans that's about to ensue. The Canadian National Exhibition. Canadian National Exhibition, CNE, also known as the Exhibition or the X. If you're trying to be way too cool for school, I guess you're going to call it the X. But anyway, it's an annual event that takes place at Exhibition Place in Toronto, Ontario, up in Canada land, on the third Friday of August, leading up to and including Labor Day, first Monday in September. With approximately 1.6 million visitors each year, the CNE is Canada's largest annual community event and one of the top fairs in North America. The fair is a combination of agricultural exhibits and events, carnival rides and entertainment, live music, food, and special events. Special events include the Warriors' Day Parade, Labor Day Parade, and the Canadian Air Show. What is the Warriors' Day Parade? A guy wonders. Indigenous First Nations peoples? A guy's going to guess, maybe? You know, Canadian Native Indigenous Peoples Parade. But 106 million, that's a lot. That beats the Calgary Stampede. And the Stampede's big. Over 1 million people come to the Stampede every year for the 10 days that we do it up here in Calgary. You know, over in cowboy land over here in Calgary, Alberta. The first Canadian National Exhibition took place in 1879. Kind of, sort of. But anyway, we'll get in further into that. Largely to promote agriculture and technology in Canada. Agriculturalists, engineers, and scientists exhibited their discoveries and inventions at the CNE like the World's Fairs, right? You see the pavilions, Machine Hall, and the Education Building, the Macrame Annex. I don't know. Anyway, the event has since expanded to include a carnival, live music, and various entertainments, as well as art displays and specialty vendors and foods. For many people in the greater Toronto area, or the GTA as we like to say, attending the CNE is an annual family tradition. And to many other Torontonians, it's the worst week and a half of their life. They hate it. A lot of Torontonians go on vacation out of Toronto during the X, I would guess. So it's held at Exhibition Place. It's 192 acres or 79 hectares site located along Toronto's waterfront on the shores of Lake Ontario, just west of downtown Toronto. Site features several permanent buildings and structures, many of which have been named as significant under the Ontario Heritage Act. There are several outdoor live music venues on site, including the CNE Band Shell. Yeah, the shell-shaped outdoor bandstand. Very cool. All the roads are named after Canadian provinces and territories. The site includes football, soccer stadium, basketball practice facility, green space, fountains, plazas, a rose garden, statues, and of course, the most beautiful thing of all, parking lots. Why are there parking lots there? Well, because they don't have the electric streetcar trolley running directly to the fairgrounds anymore like they used to, unfortunately. Historically, the site of Fort Rouillé, an 18th century French fort marked by a monument. As part of the settlement of Toronto by the British, the site became a military reserve for use by the Toronto garrison of Fort York. That's what Toronto was called before it was called Toronto. It was called the City of York. Anyway, and cleared of forest in the early 19th century. The exhibition received permission to use part of the reserve in the 1870s and expanded to use the whole reserve by 1920s. In the 1950s, the site was expanded south of the Lakeshore Boulevard by landfill. Oh, sounds delightful. And reduced in size on its northern boundary by the construction of the Gardiner Expressway. During the fair, a portion of the site west of Dufferin Street is no longer used. So yeah, there you go. Oh, it's an 18-day event. Okay, I thought it was only a week and a half, like our Stampede, our beloved Calgary exhibition and Stampede, the world-famous rodeo. So, yeah, well, no wonder over 1.5 million people. You got like 2.5 weeks of this thing. So they give you a little bit more history. It started in by sort of, there was a cabin built in this sort of green space, natural park area. There wasn't much around there. Then eventually became, sort of a public park that people started to use all the time. Eventually they held a couple of fairs there, and then they moved it to its present site, because where it's held now, Exhibition Place, is not where it was originally held. How's everybody doing? They also have the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair at the CNA grounds in November each year. A time to display the cattle and the horses and sample the apple cider. Oh, see, there you go. See, they do that here at the Stampede grounds too, right? Like it's a rodeo and a fair with, midway with the rides and, all that stuff. But it's the biggest part of it, actually, aside from maybe the rodeo, is the agricultural exhibition. They have cattle auctions, horse auctions. They have, you can go, the guy can go in there and buy some sheep if he wanted to. I don't know. You can go in there, buy cattle or horses and hook up with, I don't know, some mule guy if you want to get a mule for your farm. I don't know. Plus chickens and all kinds of stuff, right? And also the latest in, the seeds for the wheat and the barley and the other cereal grains and the latest farm equipment, which is cool as hell. I love checking out that exhibit. The new fandangled tractors and farm equipment. These things look amazing. Yeah, you got to be careful with them auctions with the auctioneer out there going, "Hey, baby, next thing you know, sold." And you're walking out of there with 5 sheep. You got to get yourself some shears and a wool spinning wheel so you can get yourself a little side business going. Start spinning that wool and get yourself a loom so you can weave it into fabric. I don't know. Help me, Kimray. Kimray's in the box. Hello, Kimray. Good to see you. So let's see what other shenanigans we're looking at here with the CNE. Oh yeah, this was an interesting one. This is from a website from the Toronto Public Library online. And it's a very interesting little thing here. Because did you know that the Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto had a Crystal Palace? Some of you around here that have been around for a while may be aware of this, because I did briefly cover the CNE on another episode of the live show way back in the day when I was talking about the national exhibitions across Canada. Canada had its own version of World's Fairs, but they were national fairs. And each year, a different city would host the fair. Calgary hosted it one year, Toronto a couple times, Hamilton, Winnipeg, Brandon, Manitoba even. So some of you may recognize this image here from that previous show. But this is the Crystal Palace that existed from 1858 to 1879, a whopping 21 years. It was on King Street West, and it was on the north side of what is now present Sudbury Street. They're saying it's an unknown picture from 18-something. And by picture, they mean not photo, obviously. So here we go. And again, this is from the Toronto Public Library website, the early years of the exhibition. Whoops. It was not named the Canadian National Exhibition until 1912, although the fair started back in 1858 with the erection, the building of the Crystal Palace at Shaw and King Streets, called the Palace of Industry. Sanford Fleming and Collingwood Schreiber based their design on the Crystal Palace in Hyde Park, London. Of course they did. It was opened by the Governor-General, Sir Edmund Walter Head. The industrial exhibition was held there yearly. So then we get, somebody's pulled this picture off the site, unfortunately. So Toronto over Ottawa was awarded the fair for the province in 1878. The city negotiated a lease with the federal government for a western portion of Fort York's Garrison Reserve. This was the beginning of Exhibition Place, so they moved it here for what sort of became the new permanent home. So on this site originally, 1858, they built this, and it was, a park and a fairground. Then they moved it to its present-day location on the shores of Lake Ontario there in 1867. And by 1878, they were holding it annually there. So here we go. This was the beginning of Exhibition Place. The Crystal Palace, brace yourself, get ready for it. The Crystal Palace was dismantled. The ironwork was incorporated into a new building with additional story, raised skylight, and cupola located just east of Dufferin Street, and it was reopened by the Governor-General Lord Dufferin. Does that sound familiar? The Crystal Palace, they dismantled it, moved it, just like the Crystal Palace in London that apparently was dismantled and moved. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Headley Man BC is in the box. Howdy, welcome. Thanks for shooting in. Hey, Sig Sarah's here. What was that? Wait, what are you saying there? accidentally picked up a mother-in-law airship hangar. Mother-in-law airship hangar. Oh. Vince is waiting for the fire. So the cabin came over from England. This guy built this cabin. So that was cabin was built on lot 15. That was moved and erected onto the grounds in 1879. So they moved a bunch of buildings, older buildings, they say, onto what was going to be the new fairgrounds. This guy's old log cabin from 1794 was moved there, and the Crystal Palace. The Toronto Industrial Exhibition and Horticultural Fair was established in 1879. So they're officially, that's the first year of the first official annual fair. Purpose of fostering the development of agriculture and industry and the arts. Patrons were introduced to the electric railway transportation in 1883, Edison's phonograph in 1888, the wireless telephone in the 1890s, and other technical advances of the times in the Industry Palace. It's a cool ticket. You go for a week. Wonder how much this set a fellow back, eh? Besides horticulture, agriculture, and industry, in the early years, the affair included equestrian competitions, fireworks, and, of course, food. Official program there from 1892. So that's very, very interesting. Let's see what else we got here. What else did a guy dig up? By the way, if you haven't already, do a fellow favor. Oh, hi, Chessie. Chessie Nix in the box. Hello. Tried to sneak in on a guy there. I saw you. If you haven't already, by the way, give a guy one of these. Just kind of helps to push me out into the algorithm a little bit as we make our way to 1,500 subscribers. And speaking of which, creeping up on that number and creeping up to the summertime when hopefully those two worlds collide, and I can do another subscriber meetup, and we can go on walkabout, do a mudflood tour of Inglewood here in Calgary. Beautiful old neighborhood, lots of old brick buildings, sandstone buildings, or combinations of both thereof. Old school, old churches. Fantastic place, great neighborhood. I used to live there. My old house is there. I don't know, maybe we'll go look at my old house. I don't know. Bug whoever's living in there now. And of course, if you haven't yet subscribed and you're kicking around the idea, what are you waiting for? Commit already. I'm kidding. I'm not going to drag you over the coals here, Anyway, let's quit messing around and get back to the show here. So this is from the Exhibition Place Ontario website. Facts and figures. Exhibition Place. The buildings and structures you see at Exhibition Place today reflect the growth and development of the grounds. From rather humble origins in 1879 to an exciting venue, playing host to numerous trade, consumer shows, and events each year. Early trade connection, 1750. While the Toronto Industrial Exhibition, renamed the CNE in 1912, was founded in 1879, it can be argued that the grounds have been a hub of trade activity since 1750 with the construction of Fort Roulet. Fort was built by the French as a means of enticing natives to trade with them instead of with the English. French always got along much better with the indigenous peoples than the English, at least by the narrative in the early days anyways. Not really sure why, but anyway. Indeed, Fort Roulet proved to be a successful trading post, and in 1757, 150 bales of fur were traded there. That's a lot of fur. In the same year, only 20 to 30 bales were traded throughout the English fort at Kingston. In 1759, the French destroyed Fort Roulet to keep it from falling into the hands of invading English troops. Well, isn't that always the story, right? Hear that about the Civil War a lot, too. As they're retreating, they burn down, I don't know, Savannah, Georgia or whatever. And you're like, really? What? Wait, why? Oh, it's so that the enemy doesn't have anything that they can use. It's, you know, it's an old tactic. Okay. A cement outline of the four walls remains to give visitors an idea as to the original size and shape of the structure. What's going on over here? Sorry, I'm jumping around. 1905 to 1912, early exhibition buildings. The turn of the 20th century, architect George W. Guenlock was given the task of redesigning the west end of the exhibition grounds. The goal was to provide new exhibit halls worthy of a national exposition. Although Guenlock, that's quite the handle you got there, by the way, buddy. But anyway, designed and constructed 15 buildings for Exhibition Place. Only 5 remain today. Of course. The Administration Building, formerly Press Building, 1905. The Horticultural Building, 1907. The Music Building, 1907. The Government Building, later the Arts and Crafts and Hobbies Building, now home to medieval times, 1912. And the Fire Hall and Police Station, also in 1912. A plaque dedicated to Guenlock's work is located in the front of the Administration Building. Well, that's how you know it's real and true. For sure, 110% there, eh, bud? Because it's on a plaque bolted to the side of the building. Here we go, the Crystal Palace. The main exhibit hall of the newly founded exhibition was the Crystal Palace, located approximately where the Horticultural Building is today. After attending a preview of the first CNE, a reporter for the Globe newspaper stated that the ground floor of the Crystal Palace will be devoted to musical instruments, gas fittings, saddlery, hardware, chinaware, billiard tables, etc. In the fountain in the center will be a large exhibit of fish. On the first floor at the east end will be shown the exhibits of tweeds and other woolen goods, sent by about 18 different mills and factories. The upper gallery will be devoted largely to exhibits of interest to the fair sex. Oh my. Ladies' work in all of its varieties will be shown in the east end, and on the west will be sewing, knitting, and other machines of a like nature. The north recess will be occupied by a large, fine-toned organ. The Crystal Palace had an organ in it. The south recess will be devoted to various assortment of canaries and other canaries and other feathered pets. The art gallery, which opens off the ground floor of the main building, is under the supervision of the Ontario Society of Artists, whose committees are now at work hanging the pictures and arranging the exhibits of photographs. Here you go, Vinny. On Thanksgiving Day, 1906, the Crystal Palace burned to the ground. There you go, sir. There you go. So, yeah, Vince called it. I mean, I'm sure we all were just, we all could have called it, right? So, I mean, does this prove my opinion that I often bark off around here on the show, is that they come up with these, cut and paste narratives and they just rubber stamp them all over certain things? Oh, there's a Crystal Palace in Toronto. Oh, well, we disassembled it and then we moved it and then it burned to the ground. Just like the one in London. They disassembled it, they moved it, and then it burned to the ground. So, give me a break. Okay, here we go. By the mid-1920s, popularity of the CNE had grown to the point where additional land and buildings were needed. Alfred Chapman was commissioned to develop a 50-year plan for the east end of the grounds that included construction of sweeping vistas, I guess it's typo, and grand exhibit halls. I thought this other guy already built a bunch of stuff. Okay, anyway. Although his plan was never fully implemented, of course not. Chapman was responsible for the design of the Ontario Government Building, 1926, and now home to Liberty Grand. The Princess Gates, 1927, an electrical and engineering building, 1928, demolished in 1972, of course. But we do have footage of it and photos. Various other architects had also had a hand in developing the east end of the grounds during this time period, resulting in the construction of the automotive building in 1929, the Coliseum Arena in 1922, and the Horse Palace in 31. With the construction of the Coliseum in 22, Exhibition Place also became home to the ever-popular Royal Agricultural Winter Fair. There we go. There it is, Jabberoo Joe. So there's the Princess Gates, built in 1927. And then here's sort of the modern post-World War II, WW2 era, where they went crazy with a bunch more buildings. Food building in 54. The Queen Elizabeth building in 57. Well, of course. Dufferin Gate in 59. The Better Living Center in 62. And an Exhibition Stadium in 75. So link for this in the description as well. Oh yeah, Rose Garden in the 50s as well. Yeah. And a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. I think a lot of those gardens were already there. I think some of this was just, it was formalized in the 50s maybe. We'll plop a statue and put this ugly fountain here and we'll call it, okay, we put a rose garden in. But we'll see in some of the older photos going back to the 1880s and 1890s that there was already beautiful flower gardens all over the exhibition grounds. So what do you think of that? Of course there was a Crystal Palace, and of course they tore it down and moved it and rebuilt it, and then, yeah, then it's got to burn down because, sure, let's just burn it down. Absolutely redonkulous. Anyway, I think I've got a couple of more here to share real quick. This one, I've got the link for it, but I really just grabbed this link for, I've got the link, in the description for this as well, but really I grabbed it just because there's sort of historic firsts at the exhibition grounds in terms of technology. So I thought it was very interesting. People were, I guess, losing their minds over some of this new tech. So I'll share that with you real quick here. This is from the website of Toronto Journey. It's a blog, I believe. But the CNE's history of firsts, nicknamed the X, for people have been coming to see the newest consumer products and innovations. Some technologies first introduced to the CNE visitors included, in 1883, commercial electric railway transportation. So that's when they first unveiled the electric streetcar system for Toronto. It was in 1883. Just in time for the fair. Well, what do you know? 1888, as mentioned, I think, in a previous article, Edison's phonograph, and then 2 years later, in 1890, the wireless telephone. 1922, Marconi's radio. Marconi plays the Mamba. Listen to the radio. Don't you remember we built this city? 1939, television. 40s and 50s, plastics and synthetics. Not quite as romantic and fascinating sounding as some of this old world tech. You jump into the modern age. Oh, plastic and synthetic. Great. And then in 92, virtual reality. Oh, fantastic. Virtual reality. So there'll come a day with the virtual reality where you won't have to get up off your duff, off the sofa or the couch or the Chesterfield, and actually go down to the X, to the fairgrounds, and actually look at all the exhibitions and enjoy and participate in real life. Now you can just VR goggle it. And why not? That's what they want you to do. And sit in your little concrete and glass tube, or cube, I should say, and like a bump on a log, and just order takeout, order delivery, actually. So I've got one more article here about the Crystal Palace. As you can hear the train rumbling by, I'm sure. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is I mean, no information really as how it started. I mean, I don't. I looked at a couple of different websites in researching for this. Holistic Media in the box. Hello, welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for shooting in. But yeah, I couldn't find any real, sort of, what the official result was after the investigation. Is it the cause of the fire? Was it some kind of whoopsies? Somebody left a candle burning next to a pile of sawdust on the floor, or if it was some kind of electrical short, or if it was arson. Who knows, right? But it doesn't really matter what they tell us, because there's no way for us to verify it. Hence his story. They can tell us pretty much whatever they want. Which is why I do this, so we could at least, not for anything else, try to poke holes in the story. So this is from another blog. No, it's a blog, I believe. Historic Tirana Music Nightclub, site of CNE's Crystal Palace. So the music nightclub on the grounds of the CNE is where Toronto's Crystal Palace was once located. Excuse me. This magnificent structure was inspired by the Crystal Palace that opened in Hyde Park in London on May 1st, 1851. Its architect was Sir Joseph Paxton, and it was constructed for the Great Exhibition, the first international exhibition ever held to feature manufactured goods. Excuse me. The event was an idea of Prince Albert, consort to Queen Victoria. We are not amused. Designed specifically to showcase Britain's industrial achievements, the Queen officially presided at the opening, and during the months ahead, it attracted immense crowds and was considered a grand success. Crystal Palace derived its name from the building materials, support frames of cast iron and numerous expansive panes of glass. The architecture inspired similar structures throughout the world, the most famous being in Dublin and New York. There are also modest versions of the Crystal Palace erected in Ontario. Get this, in Kingston, Napanee, Picton, and Toronto. These are all in Ontario. Now, Ontario's pretty big, but it ain't that big that it would warrant 4 Crystal Palaces. And Napanee and Picton are not exactly large, sprawling cities like Toronto is. Even Kingston, Kingston's not too shabby, pretty decent size. I'm assuming these because they're proximity to other larger centers, maybe. Or maybe they're old world cities that, got hit harder by some kind of reset. And there was less there that they could recover and rebuild and reclaim, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. The Crystal Palace in Picton was restored in 1997 and is today the only structure of this type that survives in Canada. It's now part of the annual Prince Edward County Fair. And then there's that famous picture we've all seen, the drawing of the Crystal Palace in London. And then it goes on to talk about, the rest of the whole thing. But here we go. Influenced by London's Crystal Palace, they designed a structure of glass and cast iron. It was erected on the south side of King Street West, near Shaw Street. Though it was featured, it was to feature recent agricultural trends following London's example. It was also to display the latest industrial technology. Thus, they named the new building the Palace of Industry, although it was commonly referred to as Crystal Palace. Palace of Industry opened in September 1858. Built in the shape of a cross, similar to a cathedral. Its entrance was located on the south side. Yada, yada, yada. It was built in 90 days. Built in 3 months. In the 1850s. It was built in 3 months in Canada in the 1850s. Sure, okay, fine. Whatever you want to say. Old World Meatbach is in the box. Queen, Nida. Good to see you. Aha, see that? Well, see now, there you go. That's another layer of the onion peeled. Thank you, Jabber Joe Picton. It's an army base. Always a linkage of some sort with something like that. Palace of Industry consisted of 2 stories with 20,000 square feet of display space and an extra 5,000 square feet in a gallery. It was a magnificent building for its day, especially for a city that possessed only about 40,000 people. So Toronto had 40,000 people when this thing was built, and they built this big, massive 2-story and then a third sort of gallery story in 3 months in the 1850s. Man, wow. Toronto wanted the site of a permanent exhibition. The city was well aware of the economic impetus it would provide. In 1877, Toronto was again selected as a location. A highly successful exhibition was held on King Street West Side. The crowds resulted in the city realizing that if it wanted to host a permanent exhibition, Palace of Industry needed to be expanded. So to fulfill Toronto's ambitions for permanent exhibition, City Council voted 60 acres. The Garrison Commons, yeah, we heard all about that, by the old fort. Constructed a new Crystal Palace. Wait, did they move the old one? Or did they build a new one? You're saying the construction of... I don't know what's going on there, but okay. So the first permanent exhibition opened in Toronto, September 3rd, 1879. There you go. So that's the first official date. But as mentioned, goes back to the 1850s, just on a previous site, but with the first Crystal Palace being on that previous site. And it was an agricultural fair, and it was a beautiful park. And people would have picnics, and they had horsey rides and the whole bit. Old World, Michigan is in the box as well. Good to see you. Howdy, howdy, howdy. So yeah, the links for all of that, again, in the description box if you want to read a little further into it. That, I don't know, man. The Crystal Palace thing is, it's a head scratcher to a guy. Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. Hold on a second here. I think I might have something. Toronto, the first Crystal Palace was dismantled. Most of the ironwork was incorporated in the new building east of Dufferin Street in 1878. Yep, just time for the inaugural year of what is now the Canadian National Exhibition. It had an undeniable grandeur, and its symbolic importance was assured by its use as an icon for the whole fair. Its image appearing on postcards, programs, prizes, and medals. Inside the palace were displayed an eclectic array of products. Wedding cakes, pianos, firearms, artificial flowers, fishing tackle, condensed milk, and tools all randomly placed. Sounds weird. It's just an edit. No. On October 18th, 1906, a spark ignited the Crystal Palace. All efforts to save it were fruitless, and it dissolved in a fearsome pyrotechnic display. The dome-topped horticultural building was erected the following year in its place. So a spark. Well, mystery solved, people. It was a spark. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for the Canadian Encyclopedia for straightening that whole thing out. Thank goodness for the Canadian Encyclopedia Online. A spark. Just a random spark appear there, people. Don't worry. Just a random spark. If they can build one in 3 months, why didn't they make a new one when it burned down? Well, they did. When it burned down, they did make a new one. They made a larger one, but not as fancy, of course. Or at least that's what they're saying, is that they built one and then they took it down and moved it and rebuilt it. Then it burnt down. So then they built another new one. That's the official story. And as you're going to see here later on in the show here, the buildings look almost identical except for the spire, cupola tower on the top. So much like a lot of churches and other buildings where they remove the top, the most beautiful, decorative, ornate, awe-inspiring portion, whether it be a church or otherwise, right? The spire or the tower, they remove them or they hack them in half or they circumcise them or whatever, right? Whatever term you want to use. So, I mean, it's entirely possible that the second one didn't burn down. They just took the top off of it. And then when people, when they reopened the exhibition grounds, people were like, it looks different. Or there was a fire, so we had to rebuild it. Fire started with a spark. Amazing. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I don't get it. I just do not get it. Anyway, what do you say here? We're roughly midway through the show. So what do you say we take a quick little break here? And I'm going to give you a sneak peek at your midweek. Of course, as always on this channel, every Sunday, you get a new boots on the ground video. Every Wednesday, you get some vintage footage. And then Friday, of course, back here live. And on the live, I like to give you a sneak peek at your vintage footage for every Wednesday or midweek video. Oh, and by the way, speaking of boots on the ground, it was nice out today, so a fella did go out and shoot some footage. Now, it's been warm, but probably for the next, when you get the whole daylight savings shenanigans coming up here over this weekend, too. But with that said, you're still, for the next couple of months, probably going to be seeing snow in my boots on the ground videos. However, with that said, this midweek video, vintage footage video that you're going to get a sneak peek at, that's coming up this Wednesday, is going to be your last vintage footage video of the season that's got a winter theme. You're not going to be seeing any more ice skating or skiing. If it's called ice skating, by the way, why isn't it called snow skiing? Because you call water skiing. Anyway, so going forward, it's going to be spring and summer related subject matter for your vintage footage videos. So that's nice. The guys trying to stay on the sunny side of the street here, Anyway, so what am I going to be sharing here? I've got this video. It is about 4 minutes long. It's footage from 1925, and it's from the successful climb to the summit of Mount Logan, up there in the Yukon territories up in northern Canada there, eh? And, of course, I put it together with some rockin' good tunes, so if you got some earphones, you may want to plug them in and turn them up for this one and smoke them if you got them, I guess. So this is Mount Logan, 1925. 4-minute video, and then we'll be right back. So enjoy. All right, and we are back. There we are. Sorry. There we go. Can you hear me? It's amateur hour here now. This is the second half of the second hour of the show where it's amateur hour. So gotta get the tech issues going right out of the gates. But anyways, thank you very much once again for shooting in and joining me here. Frankie, New West Reset and New West Reset Live, episode 56. And it's 6 p.m. right on the nose here, Mountain Time, here in Calgary on this Friday, March the 8th, 2024. Still above zero as the sun is setting here in Calgary. Above 0 Celsius, that is. Lovely day. So thank you very much for joining me. As mentioned, I really appreciate that. And yeah, kicking off your weekend with yours truly. It's nice. I appreciate that. It's Friday. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, you know what? I like doing that. I like digging all over the interwebs and finding old footage. It's really tough to find old Canadian content footage, though. And then when I'm trying to be really specific, like I want it to only be winter footage or only summer footage, indoor stuff, city stuff, country stuff. It's tougher and tougher to find, as you try to narrow it down. If I want to find, I don't know, footage from the early 1900s in New York, oh, it's all over the place, all over the interwebs. That's right, Megan. Boomers walking to school in the snow, uphill both ways. Headleyman BC saying summer setting coming up. See if you can find any Canadian cliff diving pics. You know what? You must have some clairvoyance coursing through your blood or something, because I don't have cliff diving pictures coming up here on the show, but I've got something pretty close for the second half of the show here. So, yeah, where were they building up on that mountain? A railway or Crystal Palace up there, maybe? Yeah, you never know. Holistic Media saying amazing. One spark can bring down mammoth architecture. But it take me half an hour and 5 lighters to get my chimney going that's full of wood and paper. Yeah. And Vince says, you need to use glass and metal, dummy. Of course, put some shards of glass in there. And some scrap metal. Works every time. 60% of the time, it works every time. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, quit ripping off other shows here and get on with my own show. See what we got for some old photographs. Hey, kids, what do you think? Because there's a siren in the background. Because why break with tradition? Awakening Soldiers in the box. Good to see you. Your weather's warming up a little bit, which is nice considering you're probably the most outdoorsy fella I know. Warmed up here. It's definitely warmed up over here. Anyways, let's see what a guy found on the webs here with some old photographs. I think most of these are going to be from late 1890s to, as I think I mentioned, I think it was late 40s, early 50s. For the most part, I've put them in order of date, but then some of them got jumbled. So, it is what it is. Anyway, let's have a look-see. Some of these I grabbed from just various sources on the webs. But a lot of them are from a website that I've also put in the link in the box below. because if you want to go through, there's dozens and dozens on there. And I just pulled a select few. So this is photos taken apparently in 1906, and this is the Independent Order of Foresters in front of their pavilion, apparently. Independent Order of Foresters. It's kind of like a, I don't know, that's hard to explain who the Foresters are. It's not like the Masons where it's a fraternity, you know. It's men and women, men's and women's club. It's sort of like an outdoor club. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing, if it's a British / United Kingdom thing. I don't know if they have Foresters in the US. I'm not sure, but anyway. This thing, the big crown on it. They must be in the US because they got American flag there. They got the old stars and stripes here, so. Got the Union Jack here. Look at this guy. Couple of sketchy looking dudes. Who are these fellas in the back? With their fancy feathery headwear. Snow is melting. Icicles on your cabin. Nice. Yeah. 1908. At least question mark 1908, but you know. But he's just, that's the thing. Back in the day, it didn't matter where people were going. It didn't matter if they were going to the theater or later the movies or the, silent movies and then the talkies, whether they were going to the opera. Apparently everybody loved the opera back in the day for some reason. Or if they were going to a fair, it didn't matter. Everybody just got super dressed up. Fancy hats and the umbrellas or the parasols for the sun, right? Look at this. Put a bunch of flowers and dead birds on your hat, lady. Then it'll look better. You don't want just a big, giant, ridiculous bow on the front like this, lady. You want to go crazy with the accoutrement on the hat. So this is the Dufferin Street entrance. Photo taken in 1908 at night, all lit up electric. This guy's up to no good. Something sketchy about this guy. First of all, he's shifty. You can see he's been shifted. Like, stand still. Can't you tell we're taking a photo here? Sheesh. Look at this crowd, 1908. Look at this beauty in the background of Manufacturer's Pavilion. If that isn't a massive old world building, all this big nonsense all up on here. Big dome thing with I don't know what on top. Huge arches everywhere, rows of arches. And just massive crowd of people. This is still 1908. He's just going to ride right through the crowd. Look out, people. Get out of the way now. That's what you call Edwardian pedestrian oblivion. Just going to run right over these pedestrians because they don't have enough sense to get out of the way. I don't know what's going on here, eh? People are crazy. Shot from a slightly different angle, 1908-ish. They weren't even sure. 1920? No, 1908-ish. Okay. They can't make up their mind with this photo. So it could be any time. It could be anywhere. Look at the baby carriage, or the pram, as it's called. Right? Massive, beauty. Now, this is a beautiful fountain. Not like the new fountains that they put in now, where it's just a bunch of jets that squirt up water. Yeah, this is beautiful, cascading, massive water fountain. It probably sounds just as beautiful as it looks. People could go and sit by the fountain here and cool off a bit. Just a huge crowd. Look at this in the back. What the hell's going on here? This. So this is that memorial gate that was built in the early aughts, apparently. Big, beautiful wrought iron gate. And this is the main gate. So you go through the main gate and then through the Dufferin gate for whatever reason. 1914 is this photo, hence why the Canadian Armed Forces are here ready to go. This was shut down during the WW1 as a fairground, and it was used as barracks and training facilities and sort of a mustering point, a ready point prior to deployment. 1914. Beautiful shot of the gardens there. Look at this beauty in the background. Yes, tulips in Canada. Sure, why not? If they'll grow in Holland, why not here? Look at this. Come on now. Got like a scrubbed cartouche or blank medallion here. Beautiful keystone here. Like above all the arches. Keystone, keystone, keystone. Doesn't matter if it's a door or a window. Just look at all this tech up here all the way down. Beautiful, beautiful old world building. Just domes all over, like the big dome in the middle, and then, you know, 4 domes, one on each corner. Awakening Soldier says, I used to hitchhike daily to the CNE as a kid. Wow. So, yeah, you just, you know, you almost, people would get used to seeing this, you know, right? Except for people who have the eyes to see, I guess. Oh, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I am aware of that, actually. That's a good point. Just another nice shot of the exhibition grounds and the crowds. 1915. So this is, I guess, I don't know. They said that it was closed there was no fairs during WW1. Maybe a portion of the fairgrounds were still remained open, like the Midway maybe or something. But all the old buildings were reused for soldiers. I'm not sure, because I mean this looks real temporary, right? And this is not how the Midway looks in other photos. You got, you know, jalopies here just parked on the grass. So I think if this was during WW1, 1915, right? I don't know, it's strange. 1915. Not sure what's going on in this photo. CP Games Ladies, 1915. Not sure what CP Games are. 1918. Look at this beauty. Still got some armed forces milling around. This step work that they have to do with this brick here, and then all of this up in here. Lovely. Can't tell if that's 4 lines or an I and a V. Kind of gets a little pickleated there. Sorry. These are glass plate negatives, by the way, if you didn't already know. Some of them are damaged, but you know, it is what it is. 1920 here. Some of the beautiful gardens behind some of these buildings. Now they're telling us that by, you know, the 20s, a lot of these buildings are only, you know, a decade or 15 years old. Some of them older, you know, 1890s or early 1900. But then they tell us that a lot of these were built in the teens and 20s, right? Either just before WW1 or just after. But I mean, this thing's covered in, I guess, ivy or something. This doesn't that take a while for that to grow in a building? I mean, this looks like it's been there a long time. But yeah, the beautiful gardens here. They really didn't mess around with these gardens. I don't know where all the people are in this photo. There's nobody enjoying the gardens at all, but all right. Hey, Andrea. Andrea D in the box. Welcome. Howdy, howdy. 1921. This is some of the kids' rides. But there's something weird. I don't know if this building is under construction or what, because I mean, there's just crap here and crap all along here. And then, I don't know, these just look like crap. Like it's just general crappiness overall, right? So I don't know if this is under construction. I don't know if that's what this is part of this building or if that's another building in behind. Looks like it's built, but they're putting a roof on it. So was it already there and they're just refitting a new roof on it? I don't know. But either way, if it's under construction or if it's dilapidated and they haven't started working on it yet, whatever the case may be, it's kind of a crappy section to put the kids' rides, isn't it? Oh, it's not dangerous at all with all this construction debris or whatever around here. It's fine, kid. Get your hot dog and your corn on the cob and ride the carousel. It's fine. Be fine. Maggot's saying getting the stairs ready. Yeah, it looks like maybe they're getting ready to, maybe this is just infill and they're going to put in their, build their forms and then pour concrete maybe. I don't know. This already looks like part of a stair here though, here and here. So are these demolished stairs? Is this just a trick of the eye? Is this part of this? No, maybe it's part of this electrical pole. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's part of the electrical pole. Either way, it just looks crappy, and that's where the kids hang out. That's some bad parenting. 1922. This is that main gate. Once again, look at this beauty in the background, by the way. Yeah, it could be. Could be putting a new main floor in, right? Adjusting the levels in the interior of the building and then putting in a new doorway and then having to put, form up and pour concrete stairs leading to the new door. Could be, yeah. This thing, when it's lit up, is quite nice too. You can see there's bulbs all around here and all these letters light up. It's a beauty. Looks like we have 4 lines, 4 ones here. Bastards. That's not how it is. Pretty fancy up here too. So this is the site of the fort. So this is where the very, very first couple of fairs before they became the official fair was held on this site. And then, of course, this fort was burnt down by the French. And then apparently the first Crystal Palace was built here and then moved. I think I'm getting that right. I'm so confused by the stupid ass shenanigans story on this thing. But I mean, you know that there's a fort here at one time. There had to be, because, you know, they got some weird penis-shaped thing here and a bunch of cannons. So, you know, cannons equal fort. 1925, another great shot of just, again, the huge crowds, and then this beautiful structure in the background, and then that lovely fountain once again. People are starting to dress a little more casually here by, you know, the late teens, 20s, getting in there, you know. More, you know, sort of sport casual dress as opposed to what almost always looks like formal dress all the time. No, this thing is just tremendous. Obviously, going to use that for the thumbnail. I mean, come on, man. Look at this relief work here. Some kind of grotesques here. Could that maybe be a lion? Maybe. Maybe a bull. I don't, it's hard to, again, apologies. These are pretty good photos, but they get picoulated if you zoom in a little too much. Statues here on top of this huge pillar with this beautiful Phoenician capital on top. And then all of this here looks like a pineal gland or a pine cone here maybe, or something. Of course, keystones and all the arches, just beautiful. Suspiciously low winders shooting right down into the ground there, at least to my eye. A lot of flagpoles with no flags on them. It's here. It's nice. All of this, all of these arches, all of this brickwork, stonework, even if it's just brick with this stone facade over it. Just the hours and hours and hours. Look at this up here. All this tech here. Just magnificent. This is Canada, eh? We know, you know how we like to do it. We like to put a dome, and then a cupola, and then another dome. Because we have an inferiority complex up here. Right, Neutral Mass? Good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for shooting in. Sherry Ives is in the box. Howdy. Hello, hello. Look at this thing lit up. Fantastic. 1927. See this a lot, right? Inside a lot of these arches, or sometimes in ceilings, or the interiors of domes. These rosettes in this sort of square or checkerboard pattern, grid pattern. Another grotesque or gargoyle, actually, full gargoyle up here. Statue, winged statue. I don't know if what's this, a dragon or a serpent? Phoenician shells maybe here. No idea what this is. And then all of this. And then just massive colonnade on both sides. Because why not? Again, with medallions and all of this dog tooth or sawtooth coping along here. And this is a structure, by the way. It's not just, you know, pour solid concrete, because there's a door here. You can see it's lit from the inside. Just amazing. There it is, daytime from the other side. So there's that winged figure holding up a laurel leaf, I think, or a laurel wreath, I should say, excuse me. Maybe that's supposed to be a horse. They might tell us these are horses. It does kind of look like a dragon, or maybe a seahorse, or I don't know. More statues all over this thing. It's just incredible. Again, those pillars with the capitals on top, all the tech. 1928, this photo. Yes, Dufferin Gate, thank you. Prince of Wales entrance, exhibition grounds, May 23rd, 1928. The Prince's Gate, Canadian National Exhibition, Toronto, Ontario, 1929. What a beauty. Absolutely magnificent. Even on these ends here, too, you've got figures, statues. Just wonderful. Wonderful. The old jalopy here. Oh, of course, Shriners get to have a gate. They got to have their entrance to their exhibition. Of course. With all their weird symbology that we associate with Islam or the Middle East, or, you know, looking very Turkish, looking very Arabian. And of course, that's their whole shtick, the Shriners. Oh, you know, we're an Arabian-themed fraternal order that raises money for burnt kids by having circuses. Sure, okay. This is that other main gate, and this was an old railroad bridge. This is the electric streetcar or trolley. Used to come right in through here, take people directly into sort of a main station here in the park. Electric streetcar. Now it's just a pedestrian gate, or a bridge, I should say. But look at all this going on here. 1937. Another one from 1937. Massive crowds. Again, a jalopy just running over people. We've gone from horses and buggies running over the pedestrians to now just full-on cars racing through the crowds. This guy's just, hey, buddy, you can't drive here. Where are you, from out of town? I'm from Vermont. I'm sorry. Take off, eh? You don't drive down here, you hoser. Well, this is just pomp and circumstance all over the place with this. Obviously, the grand avenue of the fairgrounds, the exhibition grounds. Resonant properties in the box. Howdy, howdy. Seahorses are a Merovingian symbol. Ah, okay, there you go. Frankish. Thank you. Also, a question here. Have you looked into Vancouver's Tartarian history? It's titled as Aenean Regnum on maps, which means something like lustrous kingdom. I've looked into Vancouver. I've been to Vancouver many times. Cousin Vinny in the box lived in Vancouver for a while, and he's my buddy that now lives here in Calgary. Old World Exploration and I have both looked into Vancouver, and I know he has separately on his channel. But I haven't looked into it in terms of that terminology and the whole Tartarian tie together. I do know that on old maps that I've looked at of, you know, sort of Western North America, what would be sort of Alberta, British Columbia, and the Pacific Northwest of the United States, a lot of those old maps, you go back far enough and they're blank. And it just says parts unknown, or here be giants. There's a big lake in that map that no longer exists. And there's islands on that lake, and there were cities around that lake and on the islands on that lake. I know John Levi's looked into that. And I've also, in my spare time researching, perhaps as a topic for the show here, I've been looking into that as well. I'm trying to figure out if that's sort of Vancouver, British Columbia, Seattle, Washington, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, like the cities, because on the old maps it says many cities, many large cities. So I'm wondering if that's what now has become, Seattle and Portland, Oregon, but they seem a little bit further inland on the old world map. They're not coastal cities like Vancouver or, Seattle or Portland for that matter. They're much further inland. So and obviously shorelines change with sea levels, to do with resets and catastrophes and so on. So, it's all up in the air. So I've a long way of answering a pretty short question is I have looked into it a bit, but not that much. It's very interesting. Oh, here we go. Mile Unveiled did a video on it. They're China Unveiled. Oh, right. Yeah. Well, because I know that they have found a lot of Chinese artifacts, Chinese and Japanese artifacts in and around Vancouver and in and around the island as well, Vancouver Island. Ballasts for ships and coins and shattered pottery and that sort of, and what we call fine china, right? Supposedly it was invented in China. Porcelain and that sort of thing, glazed porcelain, right? I'm sure I've seen that video that they did because I do subscribe and I do try to watch all their stuff. The port cities in the Northwest were strongholds for the Phoenicians. Yeah, because we're told that that the ocean goers, seafarers, they came from east to west across the Atlantic, because we're shown on maps and on the globe and all that it's it's a shorter distance, right? And you could almost see, right, going from, let's say, Britain to Ireland to Iceland to Greenland to Baffin Island to northern Quebec or Newfoundland. Simple. You could see it, especially if the ocean levels were a bit lower, like they say they were back in the day. There would be a lot more islands sprung up along that route. And then they tell us the Pacific is so huge and empty, except for, a few South Pacific islands and Rapa Nui and, the Hawaiian Islands and Midway. And, but other than that, it's huge and vast and massive. So nobody came that way. But then later on, they had to backpedal because there's evidence that Polynesians made it to South America, and there's evidence that Asians made it to the west coast of the New World by coming eastward across the Pacific. Not to mention the fact that the Indigenous First Nations in Canada here from coast to coast to coast talk about going to battle and going to war with giants. And on old maps, as mentioned, some parts of those old maps did say, here be giants. And they found giant remains in mounds, not just in the Mississippi Valley, but way up here in southern Alberta and in Montana and Colorado, and they found remains in these mounds way up here. So yeah, it's very, very, it's endless rabbit holes shooting off of other rabbit holes, but it's fascinating, right? Yes, there we go. Thank you. That's the name of the lake that was eluding me. Thank you, Brian. Brian Weber in the boxes look like Lake Connibus. That's the one. And I first kind of heard about that through John Levi, I think. But it was around where he's at Great Falls, Montana. So, yeah, which is real close to Calgary, Alberta. Like, we could practically throw rocks at each other, buddy. There, eh? But we're not going to do that because we get along just fine. But, yeah, 7 great cities. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. It's a nice shot of that statue. Looks like she's seen better days. She's been patched up here and there, but could use some work. use some work. Somebody get up there. Somebody do the ye olde ladder lean and shimmy on up there like we see in the old construction photos. You know, just get your bucket and your trowel and your, you know, your thin set or your whatever polymer you use and fill that in, man. Come on, tickety boo. You can build a Crystal Palace in Canada in 3 months. You can climb up a ladder and fix this fine lady's arm. Look at this nonsense, eh? Dufferin Gates, 1942. Speed limit, 15 miles per hour. Back before we adopted the pain in the ass metric system. It's not a pain in the ass for us. It's a pain in the ass for Americans, because when they hear me say, oh, it was a beautiful day today. It was hot as hell up here today. It was like 33 degrees. The Americans think I'm talking Fahrenheit, and they're like, what's wrong with Frankie? That's not hot. That's freezing. Close up of the gates and the components thereof. Getting those big, huge, thick iron gates. And I'm pretty sure that this, I think we can see it in another photo. I'm pretty sure this is red brick, and then these are like thicker stone tiles put over. There's this in the background again. Just incredible. Pillars and domes everywhere in the background. Yeah, here, see, I think it looks to me like maybe a concrete or concrete footing and then brick, and then these are thick like tiles that are just applied on. Either way, still labor intensive, and they still had to cut all these angles into all these tiles, or poured tiles. But again, nice gate. Not super fancy, but fancy enough. I mean, and this thing's been here since the teens. We saw earlier photos of it, but this is just a nice close-up of it. In disrepair already in 1942. Come on now. Here's the administration building. Not built in 1946, just this photo was taken in 1946. It's one of the ones that we're saying were built in the teens. Venetian shell under these little bijou balconies. Of course, you have to have columns there to hold all this fancy stuff up, just for these little jut outs. I mean, you got a main balcony here, plus you got your beautiful sort of terrace here. So I don't know why you, I mean, it's a lovely detail, but it's just so excessive. You know, for it, this is just your administration building. That's all. This just takes care of the operations of the fair. Portals and keystones and arches, and just amazing. Another shot of just the backside of this building, just how huge these structures are. $1965. Look at this thing. Yeah. Got it ready to light up for, I don't know, Christmas or something, maybe? I don't know. I mean, I could just look at this thing all day. It's just incredible. So, of course, not only, as mentioned, do they have the exhibitions, but they had the fair, the Midway. Rothrod's in the box. Ah, just snowmobiling Kimberley, BC. Off in the distance, the snow-covered Prudulia looked like a city still around Vermilion. I know where Vermilion is. Tartarian Prague Rockers in the box. Good to see you, sir. Howdy. Welcome. Unfortunately, they also had, the sideshow element. I mean, they had rides and food and hoity-toity stuff, you know, proper tea rooms for proper high tea and the whole bit. But then, of course, you had to have your off the beaten path sideshow and freaks and all that. Even the Calgary Stampede up until the mid 80s, I think, early 80s maybe, had a sideshow with freaks. I remember the first couple of years after moving here to Calgary and going to the Midway, the fairgrounds at Stampede grounds for the Stampede, and just sort of one offshoot off the main Midway. There was one sort of offshoot that had all of these freak shows, and they had like little people, like really small little people, and bearded ladies, and large obese people, and wolf boy, and all that stuff. Yeah, nowadays you just gotta walk downtown, and you'll just see them on the sidewalk. It's a different kind of freak. But yeah, unfortunately, human zoo type stuff, and freak shows or whatever you want to call them, where they have their little people and their enormous people. But they also had stuff like motorcycle race, horse racing, car racing. There's a motorcycle race from 1911. Look at the size of this grandstand. It's got to be tens of thousands of people in here. I see. There you go. There's your equestria and horse racing, 1905, the C&E grandstand. Okay, so no cliff diving, but here's your high diver. Your daredevil high diving from the 1920s. Guy just climb up the old ladder here and does a triple somersault backflip with a half twist. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was like 80, 81, 82. And then right around the mid 80s, 84, 85, 86-ish, boom, gone. Didn't see him anymore. The only thing you would see would be the daredevil performers. They was like guys on motorcycles that would ride inside the, what did they call that? I think they called it the Thunderdome or something like that. But it was just a giant metallic sphere that you could look through, and these guys would whip around and do loop-de-loops on motorcycles, and 3 or 4 or 5 of them at a time, sometimes inside this giant hollow sphere that would open, and they could drive their motorcycles in it, right? And then they would do tricks and stuff in there. So that, like daredevil stuff, yeah, but freak stuff after sort of mid-80s, they stopped. Here's a fire high diver. There's a new one on me. So this guy, you mean, okay, hold on. So you mean to tell me this guy is high diving, backflips, what have you? And people are like, wow, that's amazing, because look how high that is, and look how small the pool is. This guy's a real daredevil. But not to be outdone, this guy climbs up and sets himself on fire and then jumps off. Doesn't look like he's got very good form in his dive, though. It looks more like it's just a panicked jump into the first thing that will put out that fire, which is the swimming pool below. Yeah, could be. Could be, Jabberoo, could be. This is just ridiculous. Of course, you got to have your Kaiser Wilhelm game. Knock the Kaiser's teeth out and win a prize for your sweetheart. A shit-eating grin on these guys' faces. Hey, step right up there. 3 teeth out, 1 cigar. 4 teeth out, 2 cigars. Or you could get dolls. Cigars or dolls? Ah, Cleopatra and her snake. So yeah, here you get your geeks and your little people and your snake charmer and some creepy clown guy and some suspicious looking guy. I don't know who he is. And then your carnival barkers, I step right up. Smallest mother. She plays musical instruments. All right, so now we're getting down to the Crystal Palace here. 1905 photo, Crystal Palace. You can see that familiar shape here, the arch, all glass. Basically a giant greenhouse, right? Shaped like a cross, as they mentioned. But you can see here, you have to excuse the quality of the photo, but this big, huge spire or tower or cupola. Here's one from the 1890s. The same building. There's that war or the fort memorial. Because remember, the French burnt down the fort, and then later on they built the Crystal Palace here. And you can see this glorious spire or tower on this thing. And again, just arches upon arches upon arches, glass everywhere. All kinds of statues or figures along the top and all along here. It's just a beautiful place along the, the outdoors there in the park to hang out. 1884 supposedly is this photo. Look at this thing. Look at it. It's like, wait, what? Canada. Okay. $40,000 people when this thing was built. That's how many people were in Toronto. So now this photo says 1890s. And now you can see same building, but or same looking building. I mean, don't forget, like there's an arch like this on each of the 4 points, right? So like this on this end, and then on the far back end. So this is 1890s. This is 1880s, 1890s. This is 1905. So this is the first one prior to dismantling. But then this one doesn't have that. So is this the second one? But if it's the second one, why is it 1890s? I mean, I'm just going off the date that's was labeled on the photo, right? So I mean, that's human error, of course, is a possibility. But 1890 seems right by the clothing, right? The dead birds in the hats, and everybody dressed to the nines. All the men wearing waistcoats and jackets. Not seeing that sort of sport casual look yet with those what I call Great Gatsby hats, right? Those flat brimmed men's hats look like like a barbershop quartet hat. I mean, these men are still wearing bowler hats and top hats. So, I mean, I don't know. Here's 1895, so it's still 1890s, and there's the tower or the spire. And the outfits look roughly the same. I don't know. Am I crazy? Is this some kind of manipulation. Yeah, this is supposed to be built in 3 months, by the way. Yeah, it's a 3-month job. Just odd. Now, this is the last photo in the file, by the way. Now, this has been photo manipulated, but just in so much as they've just traced the outline of the building. And I think that's because there wasn't enough contrast from the sky in the background and some of the trees and stuff back here and the building. So they just trace this line in. But then they chose to draw in all the tech and all the details. But I mean, I don't know, because in some photos you're seeing this, which I would have thought, okay, this is the second version. This is the one that they rebuilt, like after they disassembled the first one and moved it and rebuilt it. This is it, but it's missing its spire here. So this is pre-catch fire, burn down, but it's labeled 1890s, and then this one's labeled 1890s, and it has the, so I don't know. I think there's a mislabeling, and I think this is the second version, and this was the one that burnt down. So this was the one that was once they had moved to the permanent location. So this is the permanent location C&E grounds, whereas this is the old location because it's where the fort was. But again, we're only going by what they tell us. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Toronto had 2 Crystal Palaces. You know, one had a tower and a spire, and the other one was a bit smaller, and this one was a little larger, but had a different top on it. I mean, I don't know. It's very, very odd to me. So there you go. That's what I got for my photo file. I do have a video that I want to share with you as well, though, before we round out the show. Yeah, that's right. Like wearing a 3-piece suit, right? What we call a vest today, but back in the day it was a waistcoat. And you wore that underneath your suit jacket or, you know, blazer or sport coat with your trousers. And that was your 3-piece suit: trousers, waistcoat, and jacket. Plus you'd wear a shirt. Plus you'd wear an undergarment under that shirt. And your shirt back in the 1890s was comprised of 3 components. You had the body of the shirt, then you had the collar that was separate, and then you had the front, like a bib sort of a thing, that you would button onto the front. The front flaps, like a modern shirt, you would, you know, close the front of your shirt and button it up. But then there was another piece that you would, as you were buttoning up the shirt, you would button this sort of bib thing onto the front of your shirt as well. And then you'd wear, you know, a cravat or a tie, a necktie. So many layers. And then the women had to wear even more layers, right? They would wear a girdle and then some kind of support, actually a silk or a linen undergarment, and then a girdle or some kind of under support. And then another undershirt, and then a 2-piece like undershirt and a slip, and then a layered skirt, usually with a bustle, and then their overshirt, and then that would also have like some kind of sort of a waist piece on it as well. I mean, just ridiculous. Oh yeah, the famous fainting spells, right? That's why they had those Victorian fainting couches. It's where the ladies could clutch their pearls and faint. But yeah, walking around in a, you know, hot, humid Toronto summer, you know, 35, 36 degrees Celsius. You know, that's right around 100 Fahrenheit. You know, super high humidity right on the lake. I mean, come on, man. It's too hot. No wonder everybody wore parasols and were lounging, or carried parasols and umbrellas and were lounging by those beautiful fountains. They were just trying to cool down, man. Anyway, let's have a look at this great footage that I've got of the C&E. This is footage from the 40s, so it's not super old-timey. Unfortunately, it's really, you can't find old-timey footage, at least not that I could. It's from the 40s, but again, you're still seeing a lot of these old world buildings prior to their destruction. So it's just a quick one. It's just 2 minutes, no music or anything. Can kind of have a look at this together, so I think you can hear me while I'm sharing this thing. Wonderful, wonderful entrance. The main gate, the arched gate. I know I keep going on about it, but I fella can't help himself now. It's just incredible. 1947, there we go. There's that fountain. That's a beauty too, eh? And then, hold on, let me pause it here. Just bring it back a little. I think these things they spritz water, I believe. They're pressurized water spritzers to cool you off, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what those things might be. If you know, actually, let me know. That's a great shot with that building in the background. The industrial building. Look at this. So put your TVs in there, eh? Where we got 2 cupolas with domes on them. Or put your electronics in this thing. Sure, why not? Park your car in here. Look at that. With all the different styles of... I'm going to pause it again. Sorry, right? The different styles of capitals on these pillars and columns. Got that one style there, but then in the background you have like the swirly style. Anyway, let it roll here. All that relief work. I mean, I'm going to put it out there right now. My theory is that this was much like the old San Francisco World Fair and the old, what we consider old world cities, that they tell us, oh no, these were just fairs. We built them in a couple of years to have a fair, and then we tore them down. That's what I think this was. I think like old world Toronto this was part of the city. And it was just founded and repurposed and fixed up and reused and relabeled as fairgrounds for the Canadian National Exhibition. That's just my theory, but I think the same story could be applied to the C&E grounds as could be applied to, you know, Chicago World's Fair or the San Francisco World's Fair, the fairgrounds themselves being old world cities, remnants of old world cities. But that's just kind of my take on it. I'm not, you know. Mr. Beast fan in the box. Hello, hello. Nice to see you. Been lurking, have you? Nice, thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, there you go. A nice look at the Canadian National Exhibition since 1858 or 1872-ish, depending on what location and what building and which one burnt down and which one was disassembled and moved. I think I'm going to have to do a deep dive into Crystal Palaces in Canada, because if Ontario had 4, I know Montreal had 1 at one point. Who knows? I mean, these, you know, what were old world cities back in the day, maybe each one had a few. And, I've heard a lot of people speculate that maybe this is how food was grown in these beautiful old world cities. Uh, they were basically greenhouses where all of your produce would be grown. Livestock, I would say you would probably want to keep beyond the borders of your beautiful city, your golden or white city like that. But I would imagine that, growing fruit and vegetables in these greenhouses, I mean, it would be really efficient, and there would be no mess, no fuss, no muss. But I don't think the old world treated their livestock the way the modern world does. These corporate farms where cattle are just shoved into these tiny spaces. Yeah, I think the concept of what a lot of places do, like here in Alberta, where we have, free range cattle, I think that was what was the process in the old world when it came to livestock, whether it was cattle or horses or sheep or goats or whatever the case may be. It was free range. I don't think they were penned up so much. Perhaps you would separate a bull from the female cows if he was aggressive around, newborn baby calves and that sort of thing. But I mean, other than that, unless you're Chicago and you had the world's largest stockyards at some point right there in the city, wasn't it Chicago? And of course, you're Calgary with the nickname of Cowtown, because there's nothing but cattle ranchers, and also had big, massive stockyards by the CP rail yards here in Calgary. So, I mean, who knows? So I think I'm going to wind it down here real quick, unless anybody in the box has any questions for me, or again, any suggestions. And by the way, any suggestions for the show, I'm always happy to receive, whether it's anybody sending me photographs or ideas for the show. Grateful as always. So links in the description once again for a fella's email. You can reach me also you can message me on MeWe. And of course, leave a comment here on YouTube or on BitChute or Rumble. Well, I do have this photo of cattle in the city here in Calgary. You see, it's actually up in the upper corner of the screen right now. But I think I can actually find it and blow it up and share it real quick before I disappear for the evening. Let me just see if I've got it. Because it's literally a cow standing in the middle of the street in downtown Calgary, Alberta. And all you can do really is just kind of shake your head. Just kind of shake your head. Here it is. Here it is. There we go. This is Stephen Avenue, 8th Avenue Southwest or 8th Avenue downtown. This is the Alberta Hotel, not the one that Rocky and Bullwinkle burnt down, by the way. Different Alberta Hotel. This building, I believe the Mackenzie block. It was an old bank. This, unfortunately, is no longer there, but this one is. But yeah, there you go. Get your cow just standing in the middle of downtown Calgary, because why not? You got to reinforce the narrative of Cowtown and cowboys and wild Indians in Calgary. Jesus. Redonkulous. Redonkulous. Turtle. Hello. Hello, Turtle. Good to see you as always, my friend. So there you go. And I think with that is going to seal the deal here tonight for Frankie at New West Reset and New West Reset Live, episode 56, Canadian National Exhibition. Again, links for everything below. Thank you very much for joining me. Thanks to all of the wrenches, all of my mods here, Hippie Shake, and of course, Cousin Vinny. Who else was in here? Sherry Ives, I think, was in earlier. But just for, sharing links and just all that extra stuff, because if you couldn't quite tell, the guy's not the most coordinated. So that's just a huge help. So thanks, Hippie and Sherry Ives and Cousin Vinny. Just with that kind of stuff, it's just like having an extra set of eyes on the chat, kind of. And, if I shout out a channel or mention something, one of you grabbing the links and throwing it in the box like that is really helpful. So thank you. Really, really appreciate it. So there you go. That's going to do it. And we shall see you on Sunday, boots on the ground. Wednesday for your midweek vintage footage. And then back here next week, Friday live. Going to go a little later next Friday because a guy's got to work till 6. So a fellow won't be getting home till about 20 after 6-ish. I'll have a quick snack. So I'll be going live 7 p.m. Mountain Time, local time here next Friday. So a little on the later side. My apologies for that. But always a great chat. A great bunch here in the box, as always. I couldn't ask for a better crowd. Absolutely. Great ideas, sharing new thoughts, new ideas. And doesn't necessarily mean we always have to have the same opinion about everything. And that's the great thing about it. And people don't lose their minds in the chat, even if they don't agree about something. It's just sharing ideas and giving people an opportunity to look at stuff from different perspectives. That's really what's, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here. So with that, give a fellow one of these or one of these. Subscribe if you're new. If you're already subscribed, thank you very much. And make sure you're still subscribed. Again, links for everything below. And until the next one, take care out there and have yourselves a good one. All right? Thanks again, everybody. Cheers.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.